Medoran shoulder armor. This is a Spalder, almost a pauldron, but sort of not quite as elaborate or large, although it is meant to be oversized a little bit. This is made of steel, 16 gauge steel, and covered in leather. If you're wondering what Medoran means, I will explain that in just a minute. Had a lot of fun making this, and hopefully you guys will too. So grab your hammers and let's get started. Get your template by clicking under the video or in the video, or going directly to armortemplates.com, where all of my templates are available. My books is where this kind of came from. I have a character that has some magical red armor with brass accents, and that's kind of where the idea came from. And the symbol you can see on this guy's shield here is the symbol for the country that he's fighting in or fighting for. Cut your pieces out. You're going to have to probably use a grinder with a cutoff wheel because it's pretty thick stuff at 16 gauge. You could probably get by using 18 gauge as well, but I wouldn't go any thinner than that because you're not going to be able to dish it properly and clean it up and make it look good. I'm using a dishing stump here to begin the dishing, and I'm using the flatter side of a ball peen hammer. You can use the rounded side first if you want, but you're going to end up with a lot more sort of, not damage, but just bumpy texture on the other side of it that you're going to have to repair later. So I try to do most of the stuff with the flatter side of the hammer first, and then for the more extreme curves I'll use the rounded side of the hammer. You can see with just a couple of passes we're already starting to get the dished look we're looking for. Not too bad so far. It's still not far enough, so we're going to keep on working, especially the center. The center is going to need a little bit more work to stretch that metal than the outside is going to need. Now I'm going to use the rounded side of the ball peen hammer, just mostly in the middle here, and it's just going to give me a little bit more curvature where I need it, where right now the metal is staying pretty flat there. Now you can see how much more damage this does to the other side, but that's okay because we're going to use a railroad spike with a polished head in a vise, and we're going to use a flat hammer, and we're going to do some planishing. Now, most of the time when I do planishing, I really work a long time to get it perfect, or as close to perfect as I can, but since I'm going to be covering this in leather, and if you want to cover yours in leather, perfection is not really required because leather will hide some of the flaws. And this is a piece of exhaust tubing that I'm using to round some of the lame pieces. Just keep it moving, and you want to try to avoid getting any kind of kinks. That's why I move it back and forth so much, because if you just laid it on top of this thing, you would get a harsh crease, and you don't want that. Now, fitting the pieces together, the upper lame is going to be a little bit more widened out than the lower lame, so you want it to fit into each other pretty well. The lower lame is a little bit tighter there, you can see. Now they're not going to fit that way, but they will fit into each other this way. This is a grinder with a flap wheel, sometimes called flap disc, I think. I call them a flap wheel. And I'm just going to, get a lot of these imperfections off of the surface, just enough to, make it close enough to perfect. Now for the brass work, I didn't end up using this thin stuff. I decided halfway through to use a little bit thicker stuff. So either way, you can use this hobby brass and a dapping set on a piece of firm rubber, which is actually a piece of a mud flap, believe it or not. And just mark your spots off here. We're going to be simulating some rivets, or kind of rivets. And I'm using just an ordinary socket here that's roughly the same size as the outer diameter of the the rounded part we just made, and just tap it with the hammer. Not even very hard. And there you go. It's just kind of a little outline, makes it look a little bit more professional. You can certainly do it in brass this thin, but I decided to go a little thicker. This thin stuff you can actually cut with scissors, believe it or not, but don't use your favorite scissors because it'll eventually destroy them. I had some brass left over from another armoring project I cannibalized, and I just wanted a little bit heftier look to it, a little bit thicker pieces, so that's why I went with the thicker stuff. If you don't have thicker brass, certainly you can use the thinner stuff. Here's the leather I bought, but it looks like purse leather, and I'm not really happy about that. So I wanted to age it a little bit, make it look a little bit more beat up, so I used some acetone and just kind of rub it over the surface. You want to use this very sparingly, though, because you can see what it does. It kind of takes the dye out of the leather, so you don't want to go too overboard with it. Just, you know, do it lightly and see what it looks like. This is a power punch that I got from Amazon, I think for 29 or 30 bucks, something like that. It's really helpful to have that. Much easier than using drill bits and much more precise, so I strongly suggest getting one. This is some contact adhesive, and I'm just basically going to be gluing the leather down on top of the steel that we've made. You want to make sure this stuff goes on and then wait for maybe 10 or 15 minutes before the glue will tack up. It has to be somewhat dry before you can actually put the stuff together, or it won't work. So keep that in mind. Place it in there gently, and then you want to just pull up, and you want to get rid of all the creases you can get rid of. This is not that hard. It just takes a little bit of time. Sorry, the camera's not quite lined up perfectly. I'm going to fire the cameraman as soon as I see him. Spray the inside too, so we can wrap the edge around. After that tacks up, wrap it on inside, and again, just try to avoid the creases. It's not hard at all. Not bad, not bad. And the lames get the same basic treatment. Here I've got some relief cuts made in the brass work. You can see, actually I added a little bit more later on to make it easier to curve them. Mark your holes very carefully. This is the point where you want to mark your holes. You can't mark that stuff before you curve all this metal, so punch them out or drill them out. And using 1/4-inch copper rod, I make my own rivets. You can use other stuff too, but I like this stuff. It's very easy to work with. Cut it off at the appropriate length. Put it through and hammer it down. And there you go. Nice and firmly riveted. And then we're going to be curving over the outer sides of this to make it hug the curvature of the piece. This takes a little bit of work, and you got to take care not to damage your leather, so make sure to be careful of that. A little bit of filing will get rid of those little peaks right there. This piece we're going to hold off on putting on just yet, but we will mark the holes. We're going to use this hole to attach the leather strapping from the harness. But before we do that, this is just some nylon strapping, and we're going to use this to connect the lames together and also connect the lames to the shoulder piece. These little brass washers will keep it from pulling through the back of the nylon webbing. Anywhere you use nylon or leather, make sure to use washers like that. This is a strap that we have to go around the bicep. Very simple little strap. And now we're going to rivet the lames to the shoulder piece. Now, for the decorative work, this is called repoussé. This is my cheap process for repoussé. I have a full tutorial on this, though, so I won't bore you with filming this entire process. But if you want to watch that, just click at the bottom, and I will show you the complete magical process of cheap repoussé. Now I've got some foam glued in there. You want to make sure this thing is off of your shoulder and not digging into your neck. And I've also got some fleece glued onto it to kind of hide the blue, because blue would be silly. This is my weathering process. I actually have a tutorial just on this as well. The leather drinks it a little bit faster than the metal does, of course. So you want to wipe this away pretty quickly when you're working on the leather. Now I worked on the leather first and got all of that done, and then I came back on top of that and did the brass like I usually do. Gives it that good, just a good character, you know, makes it look old and beat up and not so new and perfect, which is much cooler if you ask me. This is the harness I've made. It's basically just a single belt that goes around your rib cage with that circle in the center of it, and then a strap connecting to the front and a strap connecting to the back, and all of these are adjustable so you can fit it to your body. And there you go, that's it. I really enjoyed this project. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think you guys will really enjoy it too. This is definitely some cool armor that I've made. Probably one of my favorite pieces, if not my favorite piece that I've made yet. So hopefully you guys enjoy making this as well. And you can have certainly put a different symbol in there too. You don't have to do my symbol. Find me on Facebook, facebook.com/armortemplates. Give the page a like. We have all kinds of contests and stuff over there, so check it out. Check out my website as well, armortemplates.com, where all of my templates are available. And make sure to check out all of my other armoring tutorials. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you next time.